and welcome. Thank you for joining this webinar on elevating your practice. In it, we'll explore a reimagined intake process for family law and wills and estates matters. Joining me for the discussion is Heather Parker and Michael Tobin. Heather is a solicitor and director in the Wills and Estates and Trust Department at Acton Solicitors, an all-service firm of over 60 in Nottingham that's been around, well established for over 200 years. They're also a member of LawNet, and Heather too is a fully paid up member of STEP. Michael Tobin is the marketing and business development manager at Grant Saw. Grant Saw is based in London and Greenwich, another all-service firm, and also a member of LawNet. Thank you both for joining me. I'm your host today, Edward Kirk. I'm head of Certify in the UK and North America. In a previous life, I was a family lawyer in London. We'll talk in this session a little bit about Certify, just to give you a high level. It is the sort of global leader of client intake and onboarding systems for law firms. Essentially, it empowers prospective clients to make a start with their matter online at their convenience, and it provides them relevant information to help them understand where they're at and the process ahead. And it also gathers the information lawyers want to have a really impactful first meeting. It looks like we've kind of got everybody joined in. So what I'll do, just to kind of warm up the conversation, is share some stats with everyone. So these are Certify's had over 100,000 people provide their information to their chosen firm. So we've collected a lot of data, and so I thought I'd share some sort of high-level data about client preferences and behaviors. The first at the top there, it says sort of highlights that 44% of clients that use Certify come outside office hours. And anecdotally, I thought I'd share that one of our partner firms here in Canada, they told me that when they were considering Certify, they saw a peak of traffic to their website between 12 a.m. and 3 a.m. And so they wanted a tool to help them win that business. You know, they didn't want to leave any clients on the table. And that's why they looked to a tool like Certify to help ease clients into the process and start investing in them at a time that worked best for them. The other stat you see here is that 53% of referrals shop around. And this is word of mouth referrals as well. Something that when I was in practice, if somebody was referred to me, I would say, you know, who was it that referred you? Because I want to thank you for the business. Rarely did I say, who else? Which other law firms have you looked at in your search? And I think, you know, if we did that, it would be quite illuminating. And certainly from conversations I've had with lawyers lately, they're finding it harder and harder. Well, they're finding themselves work harder and harder to win business these days. So having, you know, strong online presence, the ability for clients to start with law firms, start interacting with you rather than getting distracted, is going to ultimately help with client conversion. So just some stats there to start the conversation on. And if I could turn to Heather and Michael. Firstly, Heather, you know, I'd love to know, you know, what was going through yours and, you know, the management at Acton's when you're thinking about reviewing your intake process, and what were the kind of challenges you were facing at that time, and perhaps, you know, even briefly tell us like what your intake process was before you changed the format a little with Certify.
I think traditionally our intake was like any wills. You'd have your initial appointment, take your instructions, and then go away and draft your wills. COVID was really the catalyst for us to start thinking about how we dealt with new clients coming into the firm, taking new instructions, especially when we were doing a lot of appointments online remotely. Um, and we'd started to think about how can we make this easier. And really what happened was the convergence of two things. We'd started thinking about it, and then we get this email from LawNet saying, have you thought about Certify? Um, and so we had that initial meeting with them, and it just felt that at that point, actually, this is exactly what we need. We want to streamline that process. We're all very aware as practitioners with wills, they are a loss leader. We never make back the time that we spend. And what the idea was, can we make that intake, getting that information, that initial information, much quicker, so that we're not spending the time doing it, so that actually then when we're meeting with the clients, it's much more streamlined, it's much more direct, and effectively saves us the chargeable time.
Excellent. So speeding up delivery and thinking about how to capture information, I guess, make lives easier, both for you guys, but for also clients as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think when you're saying to the client, you need to be thinking about all these different things that you're asking them to do quite a lot, and to be able to say to them, you can go on to our induction tool and you can do it in your own time. You can do that while you're sitting watching, EastEnders. It makes it a lot more user friendly, because they're not having to get all that information in one go. They're able to take their time at it. They can save it, they can come out of it, they can go back in. It's amazing because we get updates, so when the client has logged in and provided some initial information, then each time they log back in, we get an update to say the client has changed their details. And it's fascinating seeing what times this is actually happening, when they're actually changing that information. And so, yeah, I think for the clients, it's about making it easier for them as well.
Brilliant. And Michael, same question to you in terms of the decision to change the process, implementing technology, and how that looks for you now.
Yeah, I guess I'd echo a lot of what Heather said there. It gives people the chance to input their information at a time that suits them, and it's not as invasive as it would be if you were calling up or speaking to a lawyer for the first time. So we gather a lot of information beforehand, and for us, it gives us structure to that first initial meeting. You've gathered a lot of the information. So, and we've found that since implementing Certify, we're gaining more clients because they spend that time answering the questions and providing information. So it gives us a lot more opportunity to convert those potential clients.
That's also, I think you said the other day that the sort of chance of conversion was sort of 90%.
About 90%, that's correct.
Amazing. I put up your just to sort of illustrate and give a visual to show your system. So it sort of starts off with the way clients access the system, and you guys send out invites to clients. Right.
That's correct. Yeah. So they can either click on the icon on the website, and they also receive this automatically.
Yeah. So for I guess for callers in, you can send out an email like this, which branded, and behind this it has sort of automated reminders to encourage people to make a start and also remind them about their meeting if they have one. And as correct, we can add buttons to a firm's website, giving them people that come to the website a third or fourth avenue to reach out to you. They can still call, they can still email, but as we see here, there's the option for kind of out of hours, or you know, around the clock, you know, during holidays, at Christmas, gives people the ability to start when it works for them. Perhaps you can tell me, Michael, as I kind of roll the client's experience a little bit further, what the impact has been for clients, you think?
Well, I guess they can effectively create a checklist. So, and then they can also focus on the important aspects for them. And at the same time, it allows our lawyers to be aware of those important aspects. So it kind of sets a tone for that initial meeting.
Yeah, it gives them the ability. I think what I hear often, and what I see also in client feedback, is that, you know, particularly in family law matters, you know, there's an anxiety about taking that. And something that we wanted to make sure when building Sedify was it wasn't just a, you know, a black and white questionnaire that's rather unengaging and unpersonalized. We also build in information to prepare.
Indeed, yeah, it's very engaging, and guides them through the process as well.
Yeah, that's something I use a lot. Hand-holding people. I think the you know, what I'm, you know, I myself get very distracted, and having something to keep you sort of empower you to be involved by guiding you through the process, so that you can understand the legal concepts and things like that are going to come at you. I know that from when I was practicing, that initial meeting, you know, was a barrage of information, and rarely, you know, who could really absorb and keep all of that information. Heather, I've got some videos to illustrate how you guys use the system, but if you could explain to the viewers, you know, how you kind of changed the process, or how you implemented Sedify.
So in terms of what we tend to do is, whenever a new client instructs us, we will email them and we'll provide them with a copy of our service schedule, basically, which explains what our charges are, what they get for that, and they get options. One of the things that we were finding initially was that it was great because you could send an invite through Sedify to the client, but sometimes that meant they were getting two emails, and they wouldn't necessarily engage with the one from Sedify because they'd had one from us, and it's this whole don't click on something that you're not sure about. So what we have been able to do is we now have within our emails, we've got an embedded link. So when we email the clients, they get the client direct from us. We've got an embedded link that they can click through from that email, but they're effectively getting it all in one place. And we've found certainly that the engagement from that has taken another step up.
Brilliant. And I guess going back to the hand holding, we were talking about, I wanted with the will system, a feature that that I really like about it is the kind of organization that it does. So I just thought I would highlight here something that Sedify is able to do is sort of dynamically create lists for the client and for the law firm, including the documents to bring, things to consider, and topics to address. So as the client is going through the system, and they set, and you know, questions are posed, you know, do you have an idea about executors or guardians to appoint? And if they're not sure in the moment, it will make a note. Also, you know, if clients highlight particular priorities for them, perhaps limiting their tax liability, it's something that's provided. Right, Heather, is that you?
Yeah, so what's really helpful is whenever we get that information through, we're able to see what the clients have initially thought are their concerns, and that helps us not only identify what we will be discussing with the client, but also identify who within the team is best placed to deal with it. And I think that's one of the real advantages that we've had from it, is that we can allocate work much easier to the appropriate level of fee earner. So we're able to see initially from the information we get, does this need to be at director level, or can it be done by one of our junior lawyers, and not waste, not waste the director's time effectively, because it can be done by a junior. And that's been really helpful. And I think as well, historically, you'd have had a client come in and they'd have had a basic idea of what they wanted to include in their will, but they wouldn't necessarily have thought through all the possibilities. And what Certify does is it prompts them to think about those things before they come in to see us. So whilst they might not have necessarily made a decision, they will have realized that they do need to think about that is something that we're going to ask them, and they need to have considered. And it has meant that in those initial appointments, we're actually getting a lot more information from the client, rather than having to say to them, okay, go away and have a think about that and let us know. They've already had that thought, and we can start to talk through what their options are because of that.
So many brilliant things you mentioned there. The filtering and allocating work aspect is, one of the things that somebody asked me to summarize Certify. That would be in the list. The ability when you get a sort of client brief, to look at it and within a minute sort of say, this is for me or this is for somebody else. And it's the same in family law too. And with that, the ability, for a junior lawyer to have a chance to say, oh, this has come up. Heather, can you give me a little insight onto that so I can be, prepared for the meeting? But as well, that be able to research, and for the client to walk in feeling more confident.
Yeah, I mean, we use it as well. I like being able to print it off and the documents off, and then being able to, if we've got a trainee with us, able to give it to the trainee and say, okay, have a look through that, see what you think, see what points we're going to need to discuss. So it's a really good training tool as well.
Yeah, I could see that actually. And just as you were talking, I was going to get up the brief so people can see what this looks like. Because I think, one of the questions that with the dawn of ChatGPT and everybody wondering how it's going to apply and how it's going to take over the world, or take over people's jobs, something that I see, I think most immediately is that is the potential that it might sort of take some of the jobs away from junior lawyers or paralegals, and just drafting documents and and certainly from my perspective, what you want to be wary of is taking away the ability to learn. And I like what you there about having using technology as a learning tool as well. I'll just whiz through the client. This is the client brief that law firms get for wills. And you mentioned earlier, about you brought up service delivery, and something I've heard from wills lawyers is that if somebody does a great job, what it means is that you can get a head start on drafting the will and sort of have a few questions at the ready to tie things up. Is that what you found as well?
Yeah, I mean, we get a range of answers and how well they've been completed. Some people, you'll just get their name, address, and telephone number. And other people, you'll get a really, really comprehensive, they've really thought about it. But sometimes even just having the names and addresses and dates of birth of people is time saving. And also by just even having that information, you're looking at it and thinking, well, who's that person and how do they fit into the picture? So it for us, it's a really good way of collecting our thoughts before we go into that meeting, so that we don't miss anything with the client, that we feel like we are covering everything and we have thought about all of their concerns and their circumstances.
Brilliant. And Michael, the impact for your team, what would you say that has been?
I'd say it just gives structure, and it gives them all the information that they need from the outset, and they can then focus their meetings accordingly based on the information that they've received.
I was just gonna, I'll just put up a quick one to show the family law document. So it's a similar kind of brief. And as you're saying, Michael, that and Heather, you touched on as well, like that with something like this where it's providing information ahead, you can start to bring structure to that first meeting, have a kind of a checklist, follow-up questions, see the issues that are important to the client. A family lawyer in the UK once said to me that what they liked is, or what they described the first meeting as the Spanish Inquisition, in previous times. And what they like with having a good certified brief is that it means that they can just go straight in and say, I saw that this is concerning you. Let's talk about that, rather than wait an hour for them, and they'll be only thinking about that, and you can address that. So these are the documents that are populated in family law, including a Form E and asset and liability schedule. Just going to unshare that. And I saw, thank you, George. I'll just quickly say, so the areas of law that Certify covers is family, wills, and we also do probate. And in Australia, we do estate litigation. That's where we're kind of sitting at the moment. There may be plans in 1 or 2 years to do other areas of law. We've certainly been approached on the front, but for the moment, we're sticking in family and estates and trying to be the best intake tools for those areas. So another question I wanted to ask you both is what has kind of surprised you about implementing technology? Because lawyers, when I started with Certify, it was an education, it was a new tool, and so you're having to kind of explain how this makes the process better. But law firms can, rightly so, conservative, and so adopting a new technology is a big step. I wonder for you guys, were there any concerns or anything that surprised you that hasn't really been borne out? Heather, I'll throw to you.
I think initially there was not a reluctance, but a concern that it might not be taken up. Our demographic is the older client. Is this going to be something that they're going to get on board with? Are they going to be able to use it? And what has surprised us is actually the level of engagement that we've had from across all ages. We knew that our younger clients would be able to manage it and would have some engagement, but actually we're finding a lot of the time those really well populated answers that are coming back are from our older clients, because they've taken the time. So I think that's certainly been the biggest surprise for us, the engagement that we've had from all generations.
That's such a good insight, because particularly in estates, that's a question that I get asked a lot. For anecdotally, the average age of Certify user is 43. Over 50s make up 25% of Certify users, and I think actually somebody said to me the other day, the older generation that we now think of were the first people to use email and things like that. So why should we discount them from using technology? So that's a really helpful insight. Michael, over to you. Anything that kind of that was dispelled after implementing Certify? Any sort of surprises?
No, I guess for us, it aligns with our vision of being a forward-thinking firm. So we want to present ourselves as a firm that's at the forefront, and this aligns with that. So it allows people to, I guess, provide information and to go through that questionnaire at their leisure. And it allows us to react accordingly as well. So it's certainly sped things up and improved efficiency across the department.
Awesome. Well, that, ultimately, I think, for law firms, what we're wanting to achieve is give you the tools so that you can have the conversations with your clients that only you can have. Technology is not going to take away that human interaction, and nor should it. I think that's something I think about is having better conversations, rather than the black and white, as one family lawyer termed it to me, tombstone questions. What's the value of your family car? What are the children's middle names? Getting to the heart of why that person is there in front of you, what they want to achieve. We're coming up close up to time, and I want to ask the audience if they have any questions. Please enter in the Q&A. You don't have to. You can also reach out to us at Sedify.com. Before I sort of wrap things up, are there any other thoughts, for takeaways from you guys that you'd also like to share? Covered it all with you. Beautiful. I guess what I can add at the end here is that Sedify is a sort of preferred vendor of LawNet. So LawNet members get a juicy discount from our usual prices. So if you want to have a closer look at any of these, the family law, wills, probate systems, you can reach out to us, request a demo, and we'd be happy to help. In the meantime, thank you so much to my guests today, Heather and Michael. Thank you so much for your insights and the discussion today. It's been great.